see her for a wee little bit. And this is Ashley. She's going to take our picture at the count of 3. When she gets to 3, I expect you to smile and look like you're having a great time. That's a joke. Look like you're having a great time. Are you alive back there?
All right. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you, guys.
All right, let's go see a cave.
Wow, this is cool. Wow. Watch your head.
Watch your head, right?
We are going to have some low spots in our ceiling. And the very first lowest spot is this one right here.
Oh wow, it's real low.
And that will hurt.
There's a critter trap.
Wow.
Welcome to Fantastic Caverns. We're going to have a good time. This cave has been mapped out for about 5 miles. 3.5 of it is right below you in a sub-cave. What you are traveling on right here is an old riverbed. We're going to take this riverbed a little over a mile into our cave. And the reason that we can do that is because it's all very level. It's the biggest part of our cave. There's a lot of water that carved out this great cavern, and you're riding on the riverbed of it that made all this hole, this cavern in the hole in the ground. We are going to talk a lot about formations. I'll show you as many formations as I can. I'll ask you if you can even identify some of them. And we're going to talk about the history of our cave. Our cave has had a great social history and the ownerships of it. There were a total of 6 owners in our cave. One of the very first owners of the cave, during the Depression era here in the United States, he had a hard time making money up above growing his crops, so he came down here and he planted into the dirt of our cave. Our cave is always 60 degrees. It's always very humid. And it's always very dark. So what could he have possibly put into the ground here? Mushrooms. Good. I got a smart group. That's always good. Because usually I have to go to pizzas and salad to get people to say mushrooms. That's what he did. He came down here and he made a living during the Depression growing mushrooms. We're headed down to the biggest room in our cave. It's called the auditorium room. It's where all the social events happened in our cave. And that's where we're going to see our first formations. You want to go?
Yeah.
You're getting better. It's amazing to think this is all carved out by water.
Yeah, it is.
This is sweet. I love how they like lit it up.
Yeah, it's a museum.
In our auditorium room here, we have 4 formations I'd like to show you. I'd like to see how many of you can identify any of them. Might not be too difficult. We'll start with this one. What is this one called in our cave? Owl. What? Owl. Owl? No, it's not a column yet. Owl.
Owl.
An owl.
Tight.
Like
Tight. Yeah, tight. Yeah, hold on
For the
tight.
rest of our tour, would you keep your mouth shut? I was looking for something a little bit more scientific. It is a stalagmite. And that makes them up there.
Stalactite.
Stalactite. Now we have a variation of those stalactites here in our cave. And they are called cave curtains. And that's those guys right up there. You can see they kind of look like a curtain or an owl, whichever way you look at it. Or an owl, whatever way you look at it. They're formed that way because water on the ceiling of our cave is coming down on a slant, so that's causing this kind of a draping look, and it makes those curtain looks on the stalagmite. When the ceiling is flat, a typical stalactite looks like these guys up here, fat at the top, and skinny at the bottom. When water comes into our cave and it looks a little different than all of that, they look like those. And that's what we would call flow stone. It's because water came into the cave in the ceiling above that wall and it flowed down the wall. Scientists have a unique way of saying things, that's why they call it the flow stone. Go figure. When the water comes through our ceiling of our cave, when the cave ceiling is always limestone, that water is beginning to dissolve that limestone. And when it does that, the derivative of the limestone is calcite. Calcite is this rock right here. This white rock, this white little owl is calcite. That's what every formation is in a limestone cave. That also is calcite, and it's not white. It brought in another mineral with it when it came into our cave. Can anyone guess what that might have been?
Sulfur?
Huh?
Sulfur?
Sulfur? No.
Iron.
Iron.
Iron ore.
Iron ore is exactly right. And that came in our cave and rusted up like that, and that's why they look brown. We're gonna go down here and learn a little bit more about some formations. I just want to say one more thing about caves. It only takes 4 things here to make a cave. The first one is water. That's not so hard. The second one is a ceiling or an area above the ceiling of a cave that is porous enough to let water to the ceiling of the cave. That's a little harder to come by. The third one is limestone. That's not so hard. The hardest one ingredient for a cave is time. Time, time, time. If you came back 100 years from now, this would not look any different. It grows that slow. About the thickness of a sheet of paper. One drip at a time. That one drip of water comes to the top of that owl, and it just kind of floats all the way down like that. And that's all the more it gets. In 100 years, thickness of a piece of paper. Let's go down here and see some more formations. And I'm not going to ask if you want to do it, because I know you want to do it. You wouldn't be here if you didn't want to do it.
Wow. Oh, they just do sensor.
They have a sensor. Smart. Did you see that? It's like a sensor there.
I wish I could do that with my wife. Turn it on.
We have one formation in this area of our cave that we are kind of proud of because it is the only one formation in any cave in the world. No one else has a formation like this in the cave. It is the most perfectly straight vertical formation. I'm not going to find you. In the world. And it is in our cave. It's right here. Can you imagine how perfectly straight that was formed? Almost engineered. Yeah. And surveyed incorrectly. Because that's a well casing pipe that should have been on the other side of the wall, and they got it into our cave. Now keep in mind, that well casing pipe would be black when it was first put in. The calcite has already begun taking it over, making it look like it belongs in our cave. These little bitty cave curtains behind that pipe and all this formation, we know that this one thing in our cave is 81 years old because a farmer missed in 1941 and put that pipe into our cave. That's karma too, because he didn't drill it deep enough. And he didn't get the water he wanted. That's karma for putting a pipe in our cave. Because remember, there is a river right below this stream, right below us. It follows us the whole way through the cave. So how can you tell how old that cave curtain formation is right there in front of us? Can anyone guess how old they think it might be? Give me a guess. Just give me a guess. 200 years old. Anybody else have an idea what that? Do you have an idea? At least 1,000. Those are all pretty good guesses. But I got to tell you, my official guide handbook tells me that we have no idea how old that is. And I'll tell you why. Because water comes into our cave at different amounts, different times of the year. When we have more water come into our cave, our formations grow much faster. When we have less water in our cave, like these fellows behind me, these flowstones over the side of the wall, they look dead. But a cave never dies. There are only moments when it goes dormant. They're dormant right now. And we're in the spring season here in Springfield, so we're going to get a lot more water in our cave, and that's going to start growing and catching up with all the other fellows in the cave. We're going to go down here around this corner. It's a great opportunity to the left for pictures. And I'm going to stand on that little box up there. We'll give you a little history of the cave. Friends in the Jeep here. I have a confession to make. They told me that they have a fear of things hanging over their head. So I'm trying to help them out with that. That has not fallen down today.
Oh, dear.
Cave was discovered in 1862, and it was kept quiet for 5 years. And it was actually discovered by a dog. The dog's name was Juno. The landowner's name was John Knox. His little dog ran into the hole of a cave in the entrance. He wanted his dog back, and lo, to his surprise, all this glory was underneath his property. He owned a cave. He wanted to give tours, but he kept it quiet for 5 years. And we will talk about that a little bit later on in our tour. When he decided to tour the cave, this is what it looked like. Now this is a great opportunity for you to hug the person that came with you. Nor to make a new friend. The very first tours in our cave were done with a candle. And I'll show you just how far our earliest explorers got into our cave. They were 12 young teenagers between the ages of 12 and 19. In 1887, you already know this, we have these Edison lights in our cave from that steam generator outside. And they had these lights strung from the back of the cave all the way to the front and the entire entire auditorium ceiling was lit up with these Edison lights. No one knew what electricity was. No one knew what these light bulbs looked like. So they'd come into this cave, they'd pay 50 cents just to see these light bulbs. And for us today, you can see how it lights up that glorious formation behind you or in front of you. Just like this, the different colors, the shadows and the shapes that you see here in the cave. But in 1970 something, we put the lights on the floor and gave the cave its true glory. This is how it is most naturally with these kinds of light. We are going to travel down the road here for just a wee little bit. We're going to come across two big holes in the floor of our cave. Fortunately for us, we have a bridge over each hole. When we get to the second hole, I'll be able to show you the river stream that is underneath us today. So feel free to stand up and take a better look at this if you need to. What has happened here in this portion of our, in this cave, the riverbed found a weak spot in the floor and it created these two holes and then created the substructure that we have here. This is our riverbed. Now in the springtime, more and more water will be coming into our cave, and this holes will fill up to that white line up there, almost to the road level. Wow. That's a lot of water. We get several inches of water every day for about 3 or 4 days, and these will fill up, and they are going to. Now this river is down below us. It doesn't just ride as level as we are traveling in the tram. It has ups and downs, so it goes from 35 feet to maybe 50 feet deep. In those lower areas, there is water in that stream all year long. And in those streams, in those pools of water down there, are our cavefish. Our Ozark cavefish is an endangered species. Our Ozark crayfish and salamanders. And they live there their entire life. They are completely blind, and they are white, almost translucent. No light, no pigment color. And there is absolutely nothing for them to eat until it rains. And when it rains, all kinds of food rushes into the cave from the bottom up, and they have all kinds of nuts, algae, whatever they need. The bugs, they have that, find that, and they survive that for a long time till the next rain. We also have 35 other mammals in our cave, besides us. They're about as big as my thumb. And it's called a tricolor bat. So they're like the size of a real baby mouse, but they have a wingspan between 6 and 8 inches. And we call them a tricolor bat because unlike the other bats, on their forearms, they got stripes and a little bit of orange color. Different than a black or a brown bat. Now this is always a funny question, but I ask it anyway. Who likes bats? Yeah,
I mean, they're good for the environment,
yeah. Maybe about half of you like bats. The other half of you must like mosquitoes.
but good for the environment.
Because every bat, every species can fly out of our cave, usually from the mouth of the cave or like at the mushroom bed. That's called the twilight area of our cave. They'll fly out every night and they can eat half of their body weight in mosquitoes. So our little friends are about a quarter of an ounce. An eighth of an ounce of mosquitoes in that belly of that bat's good news for me.
Yeah.
We're going to travel right down the road here a little bit. We're going to learn a little bit more about what I tried to tell you here. And then we're going to make a U-turn as far as I can take you into our cave. After this, you all have to walk out. And we're going to turn around, and we're going to see the rest of our cave in the reverse.
So are we not going to see any bats hanging around here? Or, no?
Well, these little buggers, they are so shy. They don't want to be around anybody. They don't even want to be around themselves. And since they are so small, they hide very well. In all the time that I've worked here, I have only seen 4 of them.
Wow.
And they have all been in the mouth of the cave. Where you came in from, but it'll be different where we're going out. We have 2 openings into the cave. That's why when I go in there and when you go out there, you can take a look around and see if you see any bats. If you find one, let me know. But you can't take it home. It's got to stay here.
Mosquitoes, right?
Yeah.
We're on the mosquito.
We're doing some water sampling here at the Spring that Drains fantastic caverns. These are some of our samplers. A spring is the drainage point for a cave system. What I want to do today is give you a look at the whole drainage system, and it's going to be a good day for doing it because we have had a lot of rain the past couple days. Why the spring is so large. Water goes into the cave system through things like sinkholes and then moves through the cave and discharges here at the spring. The flow of the spring today is about 9,000 gallons a minute, and every bit of that goes through fantastic caverns. About 3/4 of the runoff water in the Ozarks moves into cave systems. We're a mile from the spring here at a vertical entrance into the fantastic system. This is one of the most open sinkholes in the whole fantastic cavern system. It's so open, in fact, the walnuts that wash in here make it all the way through the cave. I could do without all the drips, I think. That's the way the water gets in. And of course, that's not only does the water get in that way, that's the way food gets in for the cave animals, and contaminants get in too. I believe the jeeps get in some way other than that, though. Off rope! Off rope! The cave is here because limestone can be dissolved by water. This piece of limestone weighs about a pound. There is this much limestone dissolved in every 1,000 gallons of water discharging from the spring today. You can imagine the enormous volumes of water and long periods of time required to form the cave. Basically, a cave is a drained spring system. Since caves are part of spring systems, storms can flood them and make them dangerous. This isn't your normal Ozark float trip. The fish, the crayfish, and most of the other cave animals are tiny, white, and blind. Although they spend their entire lives in the cave, they depend on the surface for their food. When contaminants come in from the surface, they threaten the life here. With cave systems, whatever goes down comes up. Pollution threatens all life. By studying groundwater and by working to protect its quality, we can protect the beauty of the cave and preserve our quality of life.
So John Knox took out an ad in paper here in Springfield looking for this cave. When he found 12 young women from the Springfield Athletic Club. And they were bold enough and adventurous enough to answer that ad and be the first explorers in our cave. And they did it with a candle. And I'm gonna take you back up to the auditorium room here, and I'll show you just about how far they got into our cave. And then we're gonna learn a little bit of the social history of our cave here in fantastic Caverns. Should never happen at all.
12.
Those 12 brave girls, they made it this far into our cave. And being the good teenagers that they are, they signed their name on the wall of the cave.
It's cool.
That's 5 years. Can anyone tell me what was happening in our country during those 5 years? The Civil War? That's exactly right. I'm going to demonstrate to you what would have happened if those soldiers had found this cave. Not only they would have taken it away from John, they would have destroyed it as well. They would have built a fire, not with a switch, probably in the mouth of the cave, and they would begin digging up all the earth that they could find in the cave, like the mushroom bed. These strong soldiers, they take all that dirt and put it into a screening hopper like this one, and dilute it with as much water as they could, until they ended up with a bucket of muddy water. They take that muddy water and throw it in the kettle like that. They take some of the potash or the charcoal from the fire. And they'd stir that pot until all the water evaporated out. Then what was left in that pot was something called saltpeter. We call it potassium nitrate today. And they take that saltpeter, that potassium nitrate, and they mix it with sulfur, and that's what every soldier needed to fight a battle. Does anyone know what that was? You let me go that whole way, and you knew it off the bat, didn't you? That's okay. I don't really want to talk about that story because that didn't happen in this case. The only thing good about that is that we get to see the cave just like John did. Only we've improved it with lights. The whole cave is exactly how it was way back when in 1862. But what is different about this cave is that it has had 6 different owners privately running this cave. And they have, through the times, each had their own idea of what is a fun thing to do in the cave. One of the most pronounced things that happened here is that this used to be a speakeasy. Now, who knows what a speakeasy is?
A bar.
I bet you do. You have no idea what a speakeasy is? Do you? It's not a house of ill repute.
The bar.
I'm not even going to say that.
A hidden bar.
It's a hidden bar. Speakeasy is nothing more than a bar. You know what I talk about? Because owning, selling, drinking, making liquor was totally illegal. You couldn't do it because the government said you couldn't do it. So people would come down here into the speakeasy and they'd still party on. Because you can imagine who's going to hear you down here. They could drink all you wanted to. And they did too. They had, this whole auditorium was filled with gambling tables, concessions, bars, and tables that people could sit at and drink their moonshine or whatever they can. And they'd have people dancing on the stage and a band. So this was really happening in the 20s. Well, actually since 1911, all the way through up to 1924. The prohibition was in between 20 and 23. But in 1924, 2 bootleggers got into trouble on the Mountain Gate. Now the sheriff was probably already down here drinking as shot down the speakeasy. That was the end of that, but it was not the end of the party time in this cave. This cave has gone on to 4 other ownerships that each have had their own idea about the cave. The 5th one had the idea to put these trams into our cave. So they paved the bottom of the cave, which was pretty level, built 2 bridges, made a second opening into the cave, and they brought these trams into the cave from Shepherd of the Hills. Because they were giving tours up there. We were the first cave, and the only cave, to have ride-in tours in 1967. I kind of wrap your head around that for a second, because our first 12 explorers came into our cave in 1867. So 100 years have passed to this type of a tour that we can offer you today. And there's more and more and more. All kinds of social things that happen in this cave. I don't have a lot of time to show you all of them, but it gives you a pretty good history of what happened here in our cave. We're going to go down the road a little bit, take a slight turn to the left. We came in from the right. I'm going to show you 2 more areas of our cave, and the last one I think is the most spectacular I have ever seen. Do you want to do it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Keep
yeah.
on.
What are you guys playing at?
Where are we playing tonight?
Kansas City.
Kansas City.
Oh, are you going on in Kansas City?
We played Springfield last night.
Oh, damn it.
Good time.
Did you do it at the
Played the ballroom in Springfield.
Okay.
Outland Ballroom.
Uh-huh.
Downtown or whatever.
Nice. Well, I hope you have a good tour in Kansas.
Thank you, thank you. Oh, we're going this way.
Now from here on out, our ceiling is going to get really low. And if you don't see the stove, you are going to see stars.
Yeah, watch your head, Zach.
Oh wow.
Watch out. Duck, duck.
I feel like it's gotten other people before. Yeah.
Oh, it has.
What are the cages with the Tupperware in them?
Good question. I'll answer that when we get up here, okay? I'm sure other people are interested in that.
Whoa.
This is the breakdown section of our cave. What has happened here is that all this rubble on the floor of our cave, it was at one time all the way up there on the ceiling. And just like the layers of limestone got separated because of hydraulics, which means water pressure would get in between the layers of the limestone and they'd begin to fall down one layer at a time. And this didn't happen yesterday, it happened a long time ago. You all are experienced cavers now, and I bet you can tell me why we know that that happened a long time ago. If you just look at the pile of debris. Because we have stalagmites and flow stones, and all those stalactites up there growing on top of this debris. And we know that it takes a long time for them to grow. Right? You with me so far?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Okay. So it wasn't with an earthquake. It happened naturally. It happens in every cave. When we go through this tunnel right here, if you know the game Jenga, do not be tempted to pick a rock off that wall. Are you here? Did you not hear it? That was a joke. Evidently not a very good one. All right, let's go to our Hall of Giants. You're gonna love this room. Do we on an adventure? So if you put your cameras down for just 1 minute, I'll turn the lights back on for you immediately a little bit. Except for the lights that you might see here, this is the natural state of the cave. Our earliest explorers came into the cave with a candle. But they were pretty smart about it. They put that candle inside of an old coffee can. When they lit it, they had the very first hillbilly flashlight. Because it does a pretty good job. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
I'm going to do a short walk around the stalactite columns over here. I still like what they had seen when they first came into the cave. Earliest explorers came in from the corner of the mouth of the cave, right up in that side right there, and they basically walked like I did down to this point. To get to the rest of the cave, they had to climb over this pile of debris. There was an opening over there, but it was pretty muddy and slippery. It was easier to walk on the rocks than it was to walk in the mud. Now you can imagine 12 girls screaming, hooping, and hollering, having a good time in this portion of our cave, and just wonder what they would have said when they saw that. And I wonder what you're going to say when you get to see it today. Wow. Pretty cool, right? It doesn't get much better than that. Wow. This is our Hall of Giants. So we've covered quite a bit of information in our time together here in the cave. But I'd like to give you an opportunity to ask me any questions that may have come to mind. And I have one question from the fellow in the Jeep with me. If you've noticed in our travel that there's a little cage with a Tupperware bowl in it, yeah, our scientists set that up, and they come into our cave once a month, and they put exactly the right amount of water that they want to have in that Tupperware bowl. And what they're doing with that, they're testing the humidity of our cave. And the reason they put that cage around it is because they don't want the critters coming and licking the water and spoiling their test. If you're getting dripped on a lot more right here, it's because we are closer to the ceiling. We're about 25 feet from the ceiling cave to the outside. And that's why these formations grow as quickly as they do and why there are so many here. Anybody have any other thing they'd like to know about? We're going to head up here to the mouth of our cave, and I'll show you how our first explorers came into our cave entrance. And it looks a lot different than it did then. Now the ceiling gets really low on the right side, on the driver's side. You may need to take a look at the person sitting across from you. Because the person on the driver's side could very easily be in your lap when that ceiling gets very low. You are going to have a little trouble.
I was just wondering if any musicians ever played here? Like, I imagine the acoustic is beautiful.
Any what?
Musicians.
Oh my gosh, yes. Some of the earlier owners of our cave, they used this cave a total social event. So they bring local talent in. And on that very stage, they'd bring them in there. They might tell a song, tell a story. Play the banjo. Can you imagine that sound in that portion of the cave? And they did that for sure. Even all the way through to our trams were brought in. There were as many as 400 people in that auditorium during shows. Shows that were broadcast on NBC radio. It's called the Farmerama. So, yeah, there's been a lot of music, a lot of fun in our cave here. It's really crazy.
Have they ever done like overnights with Boy Scouts and stuff like that?
I don't know, and I seriously kind of doubt that. The owners today, they're very proud of our cave. And they want to maintain it as well as they can, so they encourage us to tour the cave, but we don't want people touching it and walking around in our cave. We keep it as pure as we can keep it. All right, watch your head on the way out here, and it is a good picture opportunity to the right. So while you're knocking your head on the ceiling, you can take pictures.
Your heads. I know. This is real world. Dude. Feel bad for a tall guy. Did you film it?
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's that bad for them. We were sitting down a little lower.
So when our earliest explorers came into our cave, well, actually every explorer that came into our cave, all the way until 1967, they came in through a hole in the corner of that cave right up in there, and this is what they saw when they first came in. The cave entrance was a much different appearance then. It was not as accessible. The only way they could get into is from a little bitty hole right over there in the corner of the cave. I'm going to show you that when we get outside here.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Did they have they found any big fossils or any Native American anything?
No, his question was, have we found any fossils or Native American artwork or something like that? No, there is no Native American artwork in this cave. But what this cave is made of is limestone, and it used to be the bottom of a riverbed in the mid-states. Actually, the bottom of an ocean. And all these sedimentary rocks of limestone are filled with all the fossils and things of that plant life and that fish life. Now that ocean went from the Gulf of Mexico all the way up to Michigan. And deposited all this limestone. In that, so on all of this limestone, there are fossils of sea life.
Lizard.
That is a little salamander. Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah.
That's one of our little salamanders.
That's cool.
He's been hanging out there all day.
Oh, yeah.
Are they ever worried about more of the cave falling on people? Because you said it falls.
Well, that happened 10,000s of years ago, and it didn't happen when an earthquake happened, so I
But
don't.
it's gonna happen again eventually.
Who knows?
Hard to tell.
Probably not. It's been here for so long.
Yeah.
You know, I can't see it falling. I can't see it falling.
At least for another 10,000 years.
Well, that's a number I can't. That's a number I can't guarantee. It is very stable. When that ceiling collapsed, it created like an arch in the ceiling, so
But it got stronger.
it got stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. Like another world. It's like outer space or something. Out Mars. That was awesome. It's like another world. So cool. That was
That little spot right there, that was the accessible port to our cave in 1867.
The original builder.
So those girls have to fall through that cave hole like that.
I think so.
Yeah, it's like the left.
Fortunately, they only had to climb about or crawl about 20 feet before they got into that big open area. So we don't know what our earliest explorers look like, but we do know what our latest explorers look like in these pictures. Pictures that were taken of you when you first came into our cave. These are free. Fantastic Caverns just wants to say thank you for coming to see us today and give you something to take home to remember us by. So whoever bought the ticket packet, if you can just hold your hand up, I'm going to give one to every group.
So I guess we get one. Yeah, I just want to take a photo of it. Yeah.
And you are welcome to make as many copies. I give you two of them, hon.
We'll get it. He knows we're in a group. So,
You're welcome to take as many copies as you want. You can bump your head.
we'll put it in the practice space.
Did I miss anybody on the trailer? Don't be shy. I got 4 of them up here.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Oh, we all get one, I guess.
I sure wish I could have gone to your concert. I do have one more picture right here. Close to the first person to raise their hand. Oh my God, that was really tough.
Oh, that's cool. That's a good picture. Yeah. It's a good picture.
All right, when I get up here, I'm going to pull a stool on the backside of our trailer.
Why are we all happy you're like... Because I'm just waking up.
And our band members up here, they're going to have to climb out.
I had to put some spice in the picture. I'd spice it up. Some seasoning. This area nice too. I was walking around last night. I wanted to walk around, but I was scared. did they do it for the next tour?
Oh, yeah.
I think we just climb out, right? Yeah, pretty good. Alright, boys.